Right, it's 8:30. So, yeah, do you feel comfortable to start kicking off, Sophie? If we start, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect.
perfect. Okay, so welcome everyone to our March Wellbeing talk. I can't believe it's in March, but I hope wherever you are, you've all got some sunshine. I've definitely noticed a difference in myself now. It's getting a bit lighter and brighter. And yeah, we've got an amazing talk today with the amazing Sophie. I'm going to let her properly introduce herself just shortly after. I'm just going to do a quick few housekeeping rules. So today is all around food for mood and empowering our bodies through nutrition. So something that's really important and something I'm definitely going to take a lot from today. So the session will be around 45 minutes and we're going to have 15 minutes at the end for any questions. This session will be recorded as well. If you have any questions that come up or anything you want to ask, please make use of the chat box and the incredible Sophie. And any question that come up, yeah, we can have a little time at the end to talk through that. We've got a short feedback form as well that we would really encourage you guys to fill out. And yeah, I'll kick off and away to you, Sophie.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you all today. Thank you for getting up early to watch this. So welcome to today's talk on food and mood and really kind of empowering ourselves to make excellent health choices. All right, so in terms of what we're going to discuss today, yes, it's going to be a 45-minute talk for myself with a presentation, a 15-minute Q&A at the end. And in the Q&A, what's great is you can ask any questions related to any aspect of nutrition. It doesn't just have to be related to what we've discussed today, which is brilliant because most of us have really burning questions when it comes to nutrition. I know I did before I studied nutrition, and that's because we're not taught about nutrition at school typically, and the government doesn't really do a very good job. And so we're left on social media trying to piece together the puzzle. Yes, there's a lot of good people, but there's also a lot of quite problematic people, a lot of these detox teas, which don't work, by the way. Very polarizing views these days. So all of this is to say is that I get that it's super confusing and there are no silly questions. So just ask whatever you want in the chat. And also what you can do if you've got a question you don't necessarily want to ask in front of anyone else, you can message me directly and I won't read out your name. I'll just read out the question and the answer. So if you've got something that you want to be a bit more discreet about for some reason, you can just message me directly. And actually, because we've got quite a nice intimate group today, what we can do is I'm going to keep this kind of super engaging throughout and ask for your feedback on certain themes throughout on the chat. So when I do ask you to contribute to the chat, please do get stuck in because that'll keep it really fun and you'll get the most out of the session. I'm also going to be sending Lucy and Marcella over a set of recipes and a fact sheet to very kindly distribute following this session. I don't know, maybe it will be uploaded with the recording, and that means that you can literally pop to Tesco's this week or the other supermarkets available and start cooking a few new dishes because we can get stuck in a rut sometimes. All right, so let's get going. So a little bit about me, I'm Sophie, I'm a registered nutritionist. I actually started out my career in tech. I used to work in tech startups in London, which I did really enjoy, to be honest. I love being part of a team and I do miss that, but I did always want to do something a bit more aligned with my passion of well-being. So I went back to school, studied nutrition for 4 years alongside work, and I qualified in 2021. And since then, the majority of what I do is I work with a lot of businesses. I work with over 120 businesses. I do a lot of talks, on mental health, ADHD, menopause, lots of different important topics. I also do some one-on-one stuff for businesses. And I work quite a lot with the media as well and with some health tech companies. So yeah, really happy to be here with you today. So how does nutrition impact mental health then? When I first started out giving these talks in 2021, I often was having meetings with HR and people and learning and development, and there was still quite a gap in between people thinking that physical health and mental health were kind of really separate. But even in 4 years, there's been so much more awareness about this. And so when I have those conversations, it is really quite starkly different now. So I'm really happy that we've just got a lot more awareness of this. But how does nutrition impact mental health then? The gut-brain connection, we're going to be talking about this in the next slide. Energy. So, when we're feeling low energy, it's really hard for us to be feeling great mentally. And, in terms of energy, just like we've got specific nutritional requirements for our nails, our skin, our hair, well, our nervous system and our brain and our energy have specific nutritional requirements. And as such, nutritional deficiencies can really manifest in terms of low energy, low mood, anxiety. So energy, we need to be eating nutrient-dense foods in order to be having good energy. Low self-worth and self-confidence, if we don't quite know what we're eating, we're kind of second guessing a lot of the time, that can lead to low self-worth. And then, again, the neurological processing is really affected by nutritional deficiencies. And I see a lot of nutritional deficiencies, by the way, and we're going to talk about ultra-processed foods and how they can lead to nutritional deficiencies across the board in a bit. Hormone balance as well. So nutrition has a huge impact on hormone balance, and hormones, especially female hormones, are very closely linked to mood. I'm sure a lot of people on this call will be able to feel that in themselves. So what do I see in clinic then? Well, I see people having multiple daily stresses, from the moment your alarm goes off in the morning to potentially you're getting on the tube, getting on the bus to work, you might have a family. There's so many different things which are calling on our attention. Cost of living crisis. So I'm seeing a lot of people who are very stressed. I'd say it's an anomaly if someone isn't chronically stressed, to be honest. There's so many societal pressures. We were just talking, Lucy, Marcella and I earlier about, social media. And I'm actually using this really good social media blocking app at the moment called Opal. I recommend that anyone gets it. They've got the free version and the paid version. For me, the free version is enough. OPAL. I actually block Instagram and TikTok from 6 p.m. So we've got the evening, no scrolling, until 12 p.m. the next day. So no morning scrolling. Maybe you are disciplined enough, you don't need this kind of thing. But, just constantly scrolling through these apps is, doing a lot in terms of that societal pressure. I see a lot of people who are just very overwhelmed, and overwhelm is such a tough feeling because it leaves us feeling really stuck. And I do see lots of people with anxiety and depression. And just to be aware, this talk is not me saying that nutrition is an absolute cure-all when it comes to this. I work with a lot of people who are on anxiety meds or depression meds, and those work really, really well for some people. Some people, diet and lifestyle will be enough. Some people will need a little bit of extra support, and that's absolutely fine. And it's brilliant that we've got those resources as well. All right. So nutrition for mental health, the gut-brain connection. So the gut is connected to the brain through a network of nerves known as the peripheral nervous system. And the vagus nerve connects the gut to the brain and sends signals in both directions. Oh, I think someone needs to put themselves on mute. Don't worry about that. Serotonin, our happy hormone, and melatonin, our sleep hormone, are produced in the gut as well. So you can only start to imagine how important this is for our mental health. It's so, so important. So, variety and diversity is going to be the most important thing when it comes to our gut health. So the higher the
Oh, Sophie, you're muted.
Sorry, that's happened once before. I think someone may have muted me by accident, but thank you very much for letting me know. Let me just go to the top of this slide again. Apologies if it's overkill. So yes, the higher the number of different plant-based foods you eat, typically the more diverse your gut bacteria, and this diversity is linked to better gut and overall health. And plant-based foods are the foods which best promote this diversity in the gut, because the majority of good bacteria, beneficial bacteria, prefer fiber of some type. Now, this is not me saying that we need to be on a vegan diet to, have a healthy diet. I personally eat a bit of everything. I'm what we call an omnivore. But this is me saying that the most research has been done to prove that the good bacteria in your gut really appreciate a wide variety of plant-based foods. So you could have these plant-based foods alongside animal products as well, or maybe for you, you just want to have plant-based products. That's a completely individual choice. So, one issue with this is if we restrict our diet or the type of food we eat, we do restrict the diversity of our microbes, which leads to worsened gut health. So, you might be suffering with your gut health, and you may have over the years really, really reduced the list of safe foods, the list of foods that you can eat. And I totally see why you would do that, because who wants to go out for dinner and have indigestion for 5 hours afterwards and that kind of stuff. But, you know, if you are really reducing the amount of foods you eat, I do encourage you to, you know, try to get a referral through the NHS to speak to a dietitian or a nutrition, or go see one privately if you can, because unfortunately with our gut health, it doesn't just get better by itself. So you really need to work on that, and we just don't want to be really reducing the number of foods that we can eat, because that is just going to worsen our gut health. I see that a lot. Oh, by the way, off the top of my head, those intolerance tests, like the York test, they don't work. They're actually not even accredited by the British Association for Nutrition anymore. I see a lot of people in clinic and they'll say, oh, I've got this list of foods I can't eat. And it gives people a lot of food fear. You know, they'll get these intolerance tests. They'll be told there's about 30 different foods they can't eat. Allergy tests work. When it comes to intolerances, the best thing to do would be an elimination diet. So, for example, if you suspect you're intolerant to dairy, what I would do is, you know, eliminate it from your diet for a month and then try and reintroduce it and see how you feel. That really is the only good way that you can be doing that. Allergy is different, but yeah, I get a lot of questions, Ari, those intolerance tests. So yeah, 30 different plant foods each week has been shown to be an effective target. Now, when I first heard this, I thought, okay, 30 different plant foods, I'm not sure that I can even name them, and I'm a nutritionist. But when you consider these aren't just fruit and vegetables, they're also nuts, legumes, herbs, spices. So let's discuss it here. All right, I think I was feeling a little bit ambitious when I said try a new fruit and vegetable each week. But if you can, maybe kind of each month, you know, pick up that swede, pick up, you know, that other kind of veggie that you keep on seeing that you've never cooked with. And now we've got no excuse, because we can literally just type into the internet how to cook X, you know, give me 5 different ways, and it will be really easy. I mean, my favorite way to cook veg is just to roast it with lots of olive oil, sea salt, and a nice spice like sumac or something like that. Herbs and spices, brilliant. So I think often in the UK we can really underutilize herbs and spices sometimes. So herbs, I like to have just fresh herbs in the kitchen. I've got a little kind of herb garden in my kitchen, and I much prefer this to buying the herbs in the plastic packs, because in the plastic packs, firstly, it's more expensive and that really adds up. Secondly, you never really use as much that's in the actual pack, so it kind of goes off in the back of your fridge. And thirdly, you're just using a lot of plastic. So I like to have the herbs in the kitchen. They also look really nice if you remember to water them. And yeah, I've got basil, mint, you know, parsley, lots of different herbs. Chop them up, add them to salads, add them on top of stews, you know, fantastic. Now, spices, do not underestimate the nutritional power of adding a teaspoon of a dried oregano or turmeric to a dish. These are really antioxidant rich. They pack a real nutritional punch. You know, everyone is always talking about superfoods. Well, superfoods are just foods with a huge marketing budget behind them. You know, turmeric is a superfood. You know, whenever you have turmeric, by the way, make sure you add cracked black pepper at the same time, because the cracked black pepper has a compound in it called piperine, which really increases the absorption of the active component in turmeric, the healthful component, curcumin. So yeah, whenever you have turmeric in a dish, make sure you add cracked black pepper. Fantastic. But yeah, these spices are just really, really nutrient dense, and you know, I'm always adding them to my foods. And also it's a great way to add flavor to food, taste to food, without just adding lots of salt. You know, if you're someone who, when you sit down, before you even try the food, you're saying, pass me the salt, it is very likely that you will need to reduce your salt consumption a bit, and just making use of herbs and spices and lime and lemon is a great way to do that. All right. So buying frozen fruit and veg, people are always asking me, frozen fruit and veg, is it bad that I lean on that? No, frozen fruit and veg actually tends to be fresher than fridge residing fruit and veg. And that's because it tends to be frozen at source rather than, say, shipped on a boat for the past 3 days. Now, fridge residing fruit and veg is still good, but frozen fruit and veg is cheaper and it can be very convenient. So I always have frozen spinach in. I add that to a lot of curries, pastas, even to protein shakes. I'll add a couple of cubes of spinach. You can't taste it. It does make it go a bit green though. You know, frozen berries as well is fantastic. So, you know, instead of just getting the frozen blueberries, why don't you get the frozen pack of mixed berries? Then all of a sudden you might be getting 4 different plant points in there if there's 4 different types of berries, which is fantastic. I also add, what's quite interesting, I add frozen cauliflower to my protein shakes. So I might just add a couple of florets or florets, or however you pronounce it. You cannot taste it, and cauliflower is part of the cruciferous vegetable family, and it's excellent for hormone balance and detoxification. So that's the top tip there. Beans, lentils, and legumes. I think a lot of people think that these are just for those on a vegan diet. Not true. These are very, very nutritious. So yeah, I like to make a 3-bean salad sometimes at the beginning of the week, with a nice mustard, olive oil, dressing. I will put that in a Tupperware, bring it into a co-working space, serve it alongside a piece of fish at dinner maybe. Lentils, I love making big dals. Fantastic, very inexpensive, very tasty. Lots of plant-based iron in there. Freeze a few portions, keep a couple of portions for the week. I'm a big fan of cooking more than you need and keeping it, either freezing it or keeping some in the fridge, because it's just such a good way it's just such a hack to kind of eat well. Cook once, eat twice or thrice. I'm always having leftovers for lunch, that's such a good thing to do. So yeah, fantastic. Just make sure you keep the beans varied. So don't just, go with chickpeas all the time, even though chickpeas are delicious, and make sure you're kind of varying them. That'll be an excellent way to diversify your diet. And then we've got mixed seed and nut packs. So I'm actually obsessed with mixed seed packs because they tend to have about 8 different seeds in them. That's 8 different plant points, off the 30. That's a big number. You can just sprinkle them on top of porridge. Fantastic. Salads, add that crunch. With salads, it can make them a lot more satisfying if you have a crunch. So adding some chopped nuts, that could be some chopped almonds or some seeds. It can also make them more satisfying to have a kind of tangy fermented food. So we'll talk about probiotics in a bit, but a bit of kimchi or sauerkraut, that can also make it quite satisfying as well. And also with salads, you want a source of fat. So that could be the mixed seeds and maybe a bit of avocado or just a nice olive oil salad dressing. And always a source of protein with salads, by the way. When I see people eating a salad and it's got no chicken or chickpeas or lentils or prawns, I'm thinking, how are you going to be full from that? So yeah, you need a source of protein there. Nuts as well. So with nuts are extremely nutritious. By the way, I'm talking about the nuts, almonds, walnuts. I'm not talking about the deep roasted salty ones, which are delicious, but that's not like my top tip. Make sure that with the nuts, you kind of just have them in the kitchen cupboard, grab a handful every now and then. I wouldn't keep them on your desk throughout the day unless you've got really, really strong willpower, because I don't know about you, but I probably just eat the whole pack of walnuts in one day, or pecans, especially pecans. So I just recommend kind of keeping them in the kitchen, grabbing them when you need, instead of just kind of munching throughout the day. We'll talk about snacks in a bit, but generally I'm an advocate for kind of having 1 or 2 snacks in a day if you want them, rather than grazing throughout the day, which is so easy to do. You come off a Zoom call or you finish your job, all right, time for another bit of food. It's good to just kind of have 1 or 2 snacks a day rather than grazing throughout the day, because it's not going to be good for your gut health to do that, and it's going to be tough to manage your weight if you're grazing throughout the day as well. So whole grains, if you always have white rice, why don't you shake it up sometimes, go wild. Brown rice sometimes, quinoa, buckwheat. You've got those excellent grain packs in the UK, which are fantastic. They'll have chickpeas in, 3 different whole grains. Really good way to diversify the diet. It's all these little hacks, and just start with one meal. So if I saw you in clinic and we were talking about how you can diversify the diet, because I look at your food diary and, so many of us just end up eating the same things again and again. Even nutritionists get stuck into ruts and we think, oh, wait, okay, we need to shake this up a bit. If we identified that together, I'd say, okay, let's start with breakfast maybe, and then kind of rotate the breakfast and then move on to lunch. We want to be, when we're talking about a health journey, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves and all of a sudden say, okay, every single meal this week needs to be completely different. I want 5 different veggies in each meal, stuff like that, because that just does not work. You know, if you look back at times you've tried to make healthy changes, you know, you probably can identify that it doesn't work when you try to do 100 things at once. So if I was with you in clinic, we'd be starting with one meal. And I encourage you to take that approach, you know, in your own life. All right, so probiotics then. So probiotics are live microorganisms with various health benefits. So we've got fermented foods which contain the live bacteria, so the probiotics. Kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. Kombucha is an excellent alcohol-free alternative, by the way. I do really enjoy a good kombucha. Live yogurt as well, so live Greek yogurt. When you go for Greek yogurt, make sure it has the live on the side, because that means that it hasn't been pasteurized and that you've actually got the good beneficial bacteria. Some cheeses as well. Please add to the chat if you have any fermented foods in your diet at present, or drinks, and if so, how you like to have them. By the way, kimchi works really well in a grilled cheese sandwich. Sauerkraut, you want to get the sauerkraut that's in the refrigerated aisle rather than in the store cupboard aisle, because if it's in the store cupboard aisle, it means it's been pasteurized, you know, like we were talking about with the yogurt. So yeah, fantastic. Oh, how would you recommend beginning to cut down sugar in the diet? Yes, fantastic. I can definitely come back to that. Sugar, I think reducing sugar in the diet is actually probably the most difficult part of most people's nutrition journeys. It is quite difficult, but there's a few different things we can do. So I'll come on to that in a bit. So little and often is better than consuming a large amount of fermented food once a week. And that is because we want to keep energizing the microbes in our gut, which is fantastic. So someone has added to the chat here that they like to have sauerkraut. I do really love sauerkraut. I think it's so tasty. I think it just makes every meal yummier. Someone says, is the flavored sweetened kefir okay, i.e. if I have vanilla kefir? Do you mind sending a link to the chat, and I'll have a look at that in the Q&A and let you know, because it just depends on the brand really. Off the top of my head, just thinking about that, I think potentially that's not going to be great, but send me the links to chat and I'll have a look. Fantastic. So probiotic supplements for a certain amount of time can be beneficial if you've got a specific gut health issue, but it's best to work with a practitioner on this generally, because there's so many different types of supplements out there. Or at least if you can talk to kind of someone who knows their stuff, like a pharmacist in the shop, that can be useful. You know, if you are on antibiotics, though, it is a really good idea to take probiotics after your course of antibiotics. And there's a great brand in the UK called Optibac, which is a really good post-antibiotic probiotic. They've also got a kids range. I'm not affiliated with them, by the way, but yeah, they've just got a really good probiotic for that, because antibiotics, you know, lots of us wouldn't be alive without antibiotics. They're fantastic, but they are by their very nature antibiotic, and they kill the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, which can leave our guts not feeling great. I'm sure you've probably felt that yourself before after antibiotics. So yeah, that is one case where it is a really good idea to go on probiotics for sure. But yeah, after your course. All right, so here we've got B vitamins. So B vitamins are really important. We've got vitamin B1. This comes from fortified breakfast cereals, squash, asparagus, tofu. You know, you'll see we've got lots of different types of B vitamins here. So in general, most people will be getting enough B vitamins from their diet. There's a few exceptions, okay? So B12, if we have any vegans on this call, please can you add to the chat if we do, by the way, because that's always interesting for me to learn. But, you know, you might be on a B12 supplement already. Yeah, you can get B12 from nutritional yeast, but generally it's just a really good insurance policy to be on a B12 supplement if you are on a vegan diet, because as you can see here, really most of the sources are from animal products. The rest of B vitamins, if you have, if you drink a lot of alcohol depletes B vitamins. And so, you know, if you've ever had a hangover, you may have woken up the next day craving a bit of bread, or maybe even pizza dough, you know, not the raw dough, the cooked pizza dough. And that is because flour is actually a great source of B vitamins. So it really does, especially very frequent alcohol consumption, it does deplete B vitamins. Alcohol also depletes magnesium, which we'll touch on in a bit. You know, all these things about alcohol, which I think a lot of the time we think about the liver, but there's lots of other ways in which it impacts our body. We'll talk about alcohol in a bit. So also the contraceptive pill can deplete B vitamins. So you might want to consider getting on a B complex vitamin, which has all of them in, if you are on the contraceptive pill and or you drink alcohol quite frequently. So I'd say like a few days a week. So yes, and then if you are if you eat a lot of ultra processed foods, so you've probably heard quite a lot about ultra processed foods recently in the news, and for good reason. So ultra processed foods are foods which contain ingredients which you don't find in home kitchens or commercial kitchens. They're foods which you look at the back of the pack, you don't recognize the ingredients. What is this random gum E number? Well, your body doesn't recognize them either, and that can cause its own issues a lot in terms of gut health, by the way. When I'm seeing people who have a lot of bloating very frequently, I'm looking at reducing the ultra processed foods in their diet. But for me, one of the biggest impacts of this ultra processed foods is that, they do not pack a nutritional punch. They tend to be very nutritionally poor. They're high in sugar, maybe salt, but they are not high in B vitamins, magnesium, iron, that kind of stuff. So, at the moment in the UK, over 50% of the food consumed is ultra processed. And so this leaves people at risk of a whole host of different nutritional deficiencies. I see a lot of people in the UK who are definitely eating enough, but the food they're eating is nutritionally poor. And so I do see quite a few nutrient deficiencies. And we don't just have to eat certain, get certain vitamins and minerals for the sake of it. It's because these vitamins and minerals power different things in our body. So whether that's having healthy hair or healthy hormones or sleeping well or not, having a more stable mood, we need these vitamins and minerals for that. So when we're having over 50% of our food ultra processed, it's just really not good for us. So I really recommend that you listen to the audiobook or read the book Ultra Processed People. Please add to the chat if you have read it. That is fantastic. And I'm just going to have a look at the chat. Sorry. I need to dial off another meeting, but can you recommend anything I can follow for general good health and energy? There is so much conflicting information out there, as you said. Oh, thank you. Okay, so if you're still on, then for general good health and energy, I'll just say it quickly. So I would definitely get your bloods done every few years. You want to check that your iron levels are good, your B12 levels are good. We don't want to be guessing with iron. A lot of people put themselves on iron supplements because they're feeling low energy. Well, symptoms of too much iron are almost identical to symptoms of not enough iron. And so, we can't be guessing with iron, basically. So iron and B12 are really important for energy. So go get your bloods done, see where you are with that. General good health and energy, there'll be lots more to come on this, but sleep is really important as well. Eating whole foods as much as possible, like I'm talking about with the ultra processed foods, really important. We're also going to talk about managing caffeine consumption and stuff like that. Someone says, I love kimchi. I have this as a side dish in fried rice. I love fried rice. Fried rice is such a good it's such a good dish to make at home. I keep the rice in the freezer because it works better when you cook the rice before. And yeah, just add in lots of egg, lots of veggies that you need to use up, chili, amazing. Like make it high protein. So someone says in fried rice, is this the same as sauerkraut in that it is better to buy the fresh packs or making it yourself? Tried a couple of times rather than the jars on the shelf. Yes, so you want to be going for the kimchi, which is in the fridge. So probiotics, you always want to be going for the ones in the fridge, with the supplements as well. If you have probiotic supplements, you should be keeping them in the fridge. Really good question. Also good that you've tried making it yourself. I tried making myself once, but it is quite tricky. So respect to you. All right, so B vitamins, really, we don't need to be supplementing B vitamins unless you're some of the people I've mentioned. And when it comes to ultra processed foods, yeah, let's just try to move towards more whole foods. I don't think it is realistic that we say we're never going to eat ultra processed foods. I'm partial to a Kit Kat every now and then. They're very convenient, they're very cheap, and we can't always make food from scratch and that kind of stuff, but it just shouldn't be anywhere near 50%. So yeah, food for thought. Magnesium is involved in more than 1,000 biochemical processes in the body, but it's often deficient in modern diets. It's really important for mood and sleep, amongst other things. It's also very good for female hormone balance and also for energy. and also for sports recovery. But yeah, today we're talking about mood. So sources: oily fish. So that's, I like to use the SMASH acronym: salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring is really good. Chicken, tofu, excellent plant-based protein, tempeh too. Dark chocolate. So unfortunately, I don't mean our Twix bars here, even though, Twix and Kit Kat are my fave. But you can have a Twix every now and then, but just don't be thinking, oh, I'm hitting my magnesium targets. So by dark chocolate, I mean over 80% cacao. Now, you can definitely work your way up to this, because maybe you think, oh, 80% cacao, that's a bit gross. Well, I used to think that as well. But, just like if you were 7 years old and some really irresponsible adult gave you a coffee, you'd probably spit it out. And maybe you didn't like olives as a child as well. Those kind of foods, you really wean yourselves onto them. You can do so with dark chocolate. So if you're currently at the Galaxy bar thing, you can really, go up 10% every 2 months. And before you know it, you'll be really loving that dark chocolate. The other thing about ultra processed foods is they're literally built to be what we call hyper palatable. So engineered for overconsumption. They've got very clever groups of food scientists who went to some of the best universities, and their main job is, how can we get people to not be able to put this product down? So, I personally don't keep biscuits in the house, because I can't not have a pack of biscuits. So I just know myself, so I don't do that. So if I want a biscuit, I'll go get a cookie, a couple times a week or something outside, because these are built for overconsumption. So they do this in a couple of ways. So one is the meeting of sugar and fat. That is going to be your party rings, your digestives, donuts. The other is the meeting of salt and fats. That's going to be your Sensations crisp, Pringles, really hard to put them down, hyper palatable. So really hard when it comes to weight management. So actually, dark chocolate versus Galaxy is hyper palatable. Gosh, is it hyper palatable? But then the dark chocolate, you're probably not going to be able to eat a whole bar of dark chocolate in an evening. I mean, you probably won't really want to, because it's a bit more bitter. So it's a lot more easy to manage your intake of that. Just grab a couple or a few squares after dinner, that kind of thing. Although with dark chocolate, do be careful, because it is quite a strong source of caffeine. So if you do struggle with your sleep, I would be having it earlier in the day rather than in front of the TV, for example. All the more case of seeds, cashews, flax seeds. Opt for milled flax seeds. So these are the ones that have been ground up. They've got more surface area for your body to absorb the nutrition from. So that's a tip there. So magnesium is great. Magnesium is also an excellent one to supplement as well. So, if you struggle with your mood and or your sleep, I would recommend getting on a magnesium glycinate supplement. Now, when I talk about supplements, I have no idea, if you've got any underlying health concerns that mean you can't take certain supplements, if you are already on certain supplements that might clash with this. So always check this through with your healthcare practitioner. Magnesium glycinate is for sure the best form of magnesium when it comes to sleep and mood. There's quite a few different sources of magnesium out there. The best that I've encountered is Pure Encapsulations. That's a really good brand, Pure Encapsulations, but there are really quite a few good brands out there. You just need to make sure it's magnesium glycinate, and check the back of the pack to make sure it's not full of loads of random ultra processed ingredients. Always check the back of the pack. Magnesium also is very well absorbed through the skin. So I've got a really good magnesium body butter from a brand called Better You. I think it's about £9. Lasts for a while. Have a shower, a bath before bed, rub it on your limbs. It really relaxes your muscles. So if you do lifting in the gym, that kind of stuff, very good for that. And it relaxes your mind. We call magnesium the relaxation mineral. So it's relaxing for your mind, it's relaxing for your muscles. So very good. All right, so fats. Now, 60% of the brain is made from fat. So we want to be opting for healthy fats like tahini, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, coconut oil. Now, fat is also necessary for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins as well. So please don't have a salad without a source of fat. That was something we did in the early noughties and the 90s for sure. But, if you're having all this kale in the salad, that's a real source of vitamin A. which is excellent for skin health, by the way. You may be using retinol on your skin potentially. Some people in here, well, vitamin A is the precursor to that. So yeah, all this stuff is very good for your skin and all that stuff. But yeah, if you're eating kale without a source of fat, then you're not going to be getting, anywhere near the amount of nutrients that you could be getting from it. Now that could be adding half an avocado, it could be a bit of olive oil dressing, it could be a heavy dose of the kind of mixed seeds. Sound like a broken record with the mixed seeds, but it's really important. Now, I don't think you need me to tell you that, donuts are not a healthy fat. I wish, but trans fats can be quite pro-inflammatory for the body. So yeah, not a fan of margarine. Butter is better, or if you're going to do plant-based, go for a different product. But margarine, I was brought up thinking that margarine was healthy, but it's not very good for you. Omega-3 fatty acids, we used the SMASH acronym earlier. Now, very good for mental health. I'm always looking at people's food diaries and saying, are you having 2 portions of oily fish a week? If not, let's supplement, because there's vegan sources of omega-3 like chia seeds, walnuts, flaxseed, pumpkin seeds. These are great to be including in the diet, but they contain a form of omega-3 that is not very well absorbed by the body. In fact, the conversion rate is only about 30%, which means that you'd have to eat a lot of flaxseed to get enough omega-3 fatty acids. So I do recommend you get on a supplement if so. So maybe that's a fish oil supplement or or a vegan supplement, which is actually derived from the algae which the fish feed off in the first place. There's a few good brands out there. There's a really good one called Bear Biology. But yeah, there's some really good brands out there. Just check their reviews for sure. And actually going back onto this, so with omega-3 fatty acids, it's not just brain function in the short term when it comes to beating brain fog and mental health. It's also, there have been long-term studies that show that long-term deficiency of omega-3 fatty acids really increases our risk of neurological disorders as we age, like Alzheimer's. So that's why I'm always checking. It's very important. Just having a look at the chat. Do you encourage keeping a food diary? Really good question. So you don't need to keep a food diary at all. I think it can be really helpful to do it every now and then for sure. I think if you're tracking everything you eat, depending on your personality type, it can become a little bit obsessive sometimes, but I do know for some people it helps them, especially if they're eating out quite a lot and that kind of thing. But for sure, if you want to improve your health and you don't know where to start and you don't have the resources to work with someone, the first thing I'd say is just draw awareness to what you eat. So I'd keep a 7-day food diary. With the food diary, it's really tempting to make the food diary kind of the healthiest 7 days of the past 20 years. But, just be really accurate. And then you can look at, okay, wow, I didn't actually realize I was eating that much sugar, or I didn't realize that I'm barely eating any protein, or, oh, after that really stressful meeting every Wednesday, that's when I go and I have a bottle and a half of wine. Okay, maybe can I change something about, maybe can I book a yoga class that night instead, or something like that. So awareness is really key with that. So food diaries, even I sometimes do a food diary, like I'll probably do a food diary once a quarter or something and just check in with myself. So that's a good idea. And also with a food diary, make sure you're writing down what you drink as well. Those 3 lattes, they count. If you finish your child's meal every day, that counts. So yeah, that's really, really important. Someone says, I'm a crisp junkie. Yeah, I think you're one or the other. I think it's either crisps or biscuits, isn't it? I'm a biscuit girl. Someone says, it's interesting because I came from a country where we hardly ate fish, and even we did, none of this is mentioned, but had lots of walnuts. Oh, interesting. Okay, amazing. None of the mentioned ones. Okay, that's really interesting. And if you come from a country where that's the case, by the way, evolutionary, I don't know which country that is, but in an evolutionary way, maybe your requirement for omega-3 fatty acids is slightly less. I'm not quite sure. There's certain countries like Lebanon where they drink a lot of coffee and they have done for ages, and people don't tend to be that sensitive to coffee coming from that country, I've noticed. All right, Okay, so the Mediterranean diet. This is a diet and a lifestyle, and centenarians in 2 blue zones out of a total of 5 eat this way. Now, there's lots of different blue zone diets, and not one is better than the other. But I like to highlight this one because in the UK we're surrounded by Mediterranean countries, more so than say going to Japan, for example. Now, I like the Mediterranean diet because it promotes brain health as well as physical health, and it's rich in all sorts of brain essential nutrients. People who closely follow a Mediterranean diet have a reduced risk of cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's as they age. So yeah, this is it. This is what they tend to do. So yeah, very little ultra processed foods. Red wine, by the way, this, let's not have any pretenses. The healthiest thing you can do is not to drink. And I say this as someone who I do drink myself, and much less than I used to, because when you qualify as a nutritionist, it does take quite a lot of the fun out of drinking when you realize all the ways it does impact you. But yeah, red wine, they would have red wine typically with meals. That's not 2 bottles of wine after work drinks. But yeah, I think for a while people thought that wine was healthy, but the best thing is just not to drink. So yeah, olive oil, principal source of fat, poultry, lots of legumes in those big, lovely glass jars. Fantastic. Now, we want to be mindful of these things as well. So sugar, someone brought up sugar earlier. So sugar is obviously delicious, and some of us have more of a sweet tooth than others, but sugar is not going to be good for our mental health, if we're consuming too much of it. I'm a big fan of mindful sugar consumption. So, if you've got that cafe down the road that does that really nice cookie or really nice cheesecake or whatever, and you say, okay, I'm going to go on Saturday, or I'm going to go on my lunch break on Tuesday, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm going to go with my podcast or with my child or dog or partner or whatever. I'm going to really enjoy it. It's going to be great. That's perfect. Mindless sugar consumption is snacking on a whole pack of Galaxy in between Zoom calls or something, or kind of on site all day. And you get to the end of the day and you think, oh, I didn't really enjoy that. And I had a family-sized pack of Galaxy. And it is so easily done. It's so easily done. So I think to reduce that mindless sugar consumption, one really important thing is to make sure that you've got healthy snacks in. So all too often I see people say, okay, I'm not going to have any sugary foods, any sugary snacks on Monday. But actually, no, I'm not going to get any healthy snacks in because I'm just also going to stop snacking as well. And then it gets to Monday, it's 3 p.m. when they typically have their, cup of tea and a biscuit or 5. And they're saying, okay, I'm not going to do that today. But then they get really hungry because they've been having that snack every day at 3 p.m. for the past, 10, 15 years. And then, of course, they fight with it for 10 minutes and then they go to the vending machine or they go to the shop and pick something up. When actually it's a really good idea to just have a healthy snack in. That's really good. And also I find it useful with clients when they know when their next sugary treat is coming. So if you do want to have that mindful sugary treat, why don't you add it into your diary? Add it into your Google Calendar, Thursday morning, chocolate croissant or something like that. And then it's coming. So that can be quite useful. But please don't get disillusioned if you keep on trying to reduce sugar and then it's tough and you keep kind of not doing that, because it is one of the most difficult things about nutrition. Some people find it useful to go completely cold turkey on sugar. I do that after Christmas every year because at Christmas, you've got the Galaxies, you've got the mince pies, and I just find it good to do 2 weeks with no sugar. It's a good reset because definitely the more sugar you have, the more you want. You may have found that. And you do kind of get headaches for the first couple of days, but I support that with drinking lots of water, having an electrolyte once a day. With the electrolytes, you want to be going for electrolytes which are not full of loads of added sugar and that kind of stuff. So just always check the back of the pack. So that's sugar. Caffeine. Now, caffeine is not intrinsically bad for us. In fact, caffeine obviously can really help with focus, but I think a lot of us are in denial about how caffeine is impacting us. So caffeine, if you are prone to anxiety, I don't think that you should be drinking caffeine, really, especially the very caffeinated drinks like coffee. If you sleep badly, I don't think you should be drinking caffeine. Matcha, so you got coffee and then you got matcha. So matcha is that green drink you may have seen quite a few people drinking. Matcha it's got L-theanine in, which is an amino acid which binds to the caffeine to reduce its impact on your nervous system, your sleep and your anxiety. So, me personally, I can have matcha. I can't have caffeinated coffee. It makes me anxious. I don't sleep well. Even if I have a coffee at 9 a.m., which is caffeinated, I'm not going to be sleeping well in the evening. I'm very sensitive. A lot of people are very sensitive, but they tell themselves they're not. Some people are genuinely not sensitive. Like my dad can have a coffee at 11:30 p.m. He'll be asleep at midnight. If I did that, I'd be up until 4 a.m. So, I work with a lot of people. They do a 2-week or 3-week break from caffeine, and then we reintroduce it, and then they see how they feel that day, and then the next day they reflect on how they slept the night before. It's a bit like the elimination diet, which we were talking about earlier for intolerances. So, if you don't suffer with anxiety and if you sleep really well, then this is not really going to be relevant for you. But yeah, caffeine exacerbates the anxiety response. So yeah, maybe you're thinking, okay, I want to try a bit of a break. If you're currently, say, on 4 coffees a day, I would not say go down to 0 tomorrow, because you will literally have withdrawal symptoms. I would go, if you're on 4, I'd go down to 2 for the next week, 1 for the next week after that. Then I'd go on to 0 for 3 weeks, and then I'd reintroduce it and see how you feel. I've worked with so many people who are now just on decaf after doing that. So it's definitely food for thought. Please answer the chat if you've reduced your caffeine intake and if you felt anything beneficial from it. And actually, we're going to be talking about alcohol briefly as well. We're going to go on to Q&A in a bit, but everyone's got their own personal relationship with alcohol. I think just people don't think about alcohol's impact on our mental health. Please Google Andrew Huberman alcohol brain health podcast. He's got a 2-hour podcast. Listen to it on times 1.5 or break it up in 2. It's very good. It's about the impact of alcohol on brain health, which I think people don't talk about enough. And, alcohol impacts on mental health, not just the day after, on a Sunday, if you go out on the Saturday. It's also the following Thursday, you'll still be feeling it, like mentally. So, the great thing about the UK is you've got some amazing alcohol-free alternatives. I love Lucky Saint beer. I think it's so good. I also like the Trip CBD drinks. I like Pentire. It's a good spirit. So, yeah, you can completely cut out alcohol or you can reduce. There's lots of different alcohol-free alternatives out there now. There's a couple of really great apps, NHS Drink-Free Days. There's another one called I Am Sober, and there's another one called Reframe. All really good if you're trying to reduce or cut out alcohol. And there's some really good books out there as well, like The Life-Changing Joy of Being Sober and all that stuff. But yeah, this is, you could have so many sessions on alcohol, but those are just some of my top tips from working with clients and stuff. So, best one, 0% Prosecco. Yes. Do you know what? I found really good alcohol-free spirits and beer, but I'm yet to find a good alcohol-free wine. That would be great. Okay, so yes, our second brain, we did cover that earlier, which is great. So tips to maintain healthy eating habits when you feel down. So quick wins, sometimes when we're feeling really down, the last thing we want to do is, cook a big dinner. So just with your food shop, this sounds really simple, but do you want to go to the supermarket or do you want to set up an online recurring order? I think this is just brilliant. And I advise most of my clients to do that. Do you want to get a subscription box? Figure that out. That's the first thing. Batch cooking is really great. I'm batch cooking all the time. It'll save you time and money. You've got that upfront time cost, but it will save you a lot of time and money in the long run. Using your freezer as well. Cooking hacks. So I remember before I started working, I thought, okay, who is lazy enough to buy chopped onion in the supermarket? That's me now. So, don't be afraid to use these things. All the hacks, they all add up. It's great. Ready meals, there are some great ready meals these days. We don't want to completely rely on them at all. But, if it's between you ordering McDonald's or having a healthy ready meal in the freezer, that's going to be better to do that. So there's some really good brands out there. I've actually worked with this company. They're not paying me to say this, but I did work with them in the past, full disclosure, called Thrive, Frive. They are very good. They're good if you're kind of on the go a lot, or if you've just had a baby and you don't have time to cook. Deliciously Ella has some good ones. There's also a brand called Field Doctor, which is started by a dietitian, which is very good. With the ready meals, you want to check that they don't have loads of added salt, loads of ultra processed ingredients, lots of added sugar. Just check the back of the pack. But anyway, balanced snacks, this is going in the fact sheet. Have self-compassion. We don't, even nutritionists don't eat this way all the time. So I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, the 90-10 rule, and, don't beat yourself up around food. If you are eating a really, really healthy food, but you've got negative self-talk going on in your mind, you're not even going to absorb the nutrition from that. So, we need to be kind to ourselves. So these are different things we can cover. If you have questions on any of these, let me know in the Q&A, but I'm going to go on the Q&A now. So yeah, nutritionists and therapists, just make sure they're associated with the relevant bodies. I'm a huge fan of therapy. My mum actually is a psychotherapist. Lucky me. She doesn't actually give me therapy though, that'd be strange. But yeah, therapy is amazing. All right, so let's stay in touch. So yes, I am on all of these things, and also I have actually just started a newsletter. I'll just pop this here. I think it's this one, so nutritionsoffsite.com. Oh no, I'll put this here. I'll add it here. I've got a free post up at the moment on ways to skin health through nutrition, which is great, and I'm going to send stuff out every week, and Sunday's one is going to be on getting yourself out of a health rut. All right, so now we can go on to, oh, thank you for sharing my website, although my website, I just find my website quite embarrassing at the moment because I have not edited it for like a couple of years. I need to edit it again, but that is my Substack. Thank you for sharing those links. All right, so now we can go on to the Q&A. All right, so I'm just going to go back over the chat because we've got some stuff.
That was amazing, Sophie. You have such a wealth of knowledge in this field. I was completely blown away by it. I was thinking, my gosh, definitely thinking there's some real changes I need to make in my diet. So real food for thought there, definitely. And the chat's been popping off. It's been amazing, the interaction. And just how people just sharing their thoughts and tips as well. There's one on here from Matthew, which I can so resonate with. And it's tips to be mindful. So is there any science around sugar addiction? He said, I'm great during the day, but I get an overwhelming desire to eat chocolate in the evening. Is this a habit or something else? And to be honest, that's me and my partner. We'll finish the day and I've been really good. And then we'll be like, oh, I really fancy some sweets. And before we know it, a pack of Haribos is in our bellies. So any tips around that would be amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I agree. Thank you everyone for contributing to the chat. It's been a pleasure to read it all, and I'm excited for the rest of all of this. And yeah, I know, especially I find that if you're with a partner in the evening, it's kind of that, oh, should we be a little bit like naughty? And whenever I've been with a partner, it's like, oh, you go to the shop. So yeah, science around sugar addiction. I don't know. People have different opinions on this. Some people say it's not an addiction, but okay, if we're getting stuck on terminology, like it's definitely, yeah, as I said before, the more you have, the more you want. And basically when you have sugar, what happens is it spikes your blood sugar, and then what goes up must go down, so you'll have a crash, and then in that crash you want to bring yourself back up to base level or high again. So then you want that sugar again, and it repeats the cycle. When you're in a blood sugar crash, you're not thinking, oh, let me get that broccoli and tahini that I meal prepped the other day. No, you want something that's going to bring you back up quickly, and that's going to be the sugar as well. So some of my top tips for you: overwhelming desire to eat chocolate in the evening. So if you are trying to beat this, okay, first of all, I want you to, after this, whatever, make a note of what I tell you to do. I want you to write down why you want to beat your sugar addiction. Why do you want to eat less sugar? Like, what is that going to do to your life? Maybe you're going to write down 3 whys. They may be related to how you feel, they may be related to how you look, all that stuff. So to just write down your whys, maybe keep them on the notes section on your phone so you can go back to it and have a look, check in on your whys. And then, I would say don't keep the chocolate in your house. That's just going to be, just don't keep it in the house, because you've got to have such a strong willpower to avoid it, honestly. Like, if you know it's in the kitchen, you can put it in a drawer which is up high, but I don't think it's going to do much. And then what a lot of people find useful if you snack a lot in the evening is to have a cut-off time in the evening for when you stop eating. So if it's just a rule, okay, obviously if you're out for dinner, or if you can change your life habits, whatever. But if it's just a rule, oh, we don't eat after 8 p.m. or something like that, that can really help people not just start eating in front of watching traitors in front of the TV. So just say 8 p.m. no, or kind of come up with your time. That can be a good one. Another thing is tracking your habits. So there's a really good free app called Habit. Or you can just do a tally, keep it on the fridge or something like that. Every day that you didn't have chocolate in the evening, tick that off, whatever. And then say if you get 5 of those, maybe you can treat yourself to something. Yeah, maybe that can be a chocolate, or maybe it can be something else, just something that you enjoy. So habit tracking, cut off time, don't keep it in the house, and also make a list of your whys and revisit the whys often. When you start to feel progress and see progress, that will compound in any aspect of your health journey, because you can just feel that the stuff is working.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Great.
sorry, I could talk about
Thanks,
ages.
Sophie.
No worries.
Marcy, you've got a question?
I do.
Yeah.
So a few people on this call will probably resonate with this. I've got 2 teenagers in this household, and they just refuse to eat vegetables. They're really great at eating fruit, and they're pretty healthy. Yeah. And I feel like I've missed the window of opportunity of introducing vegetables, because I think when kids get to a certain age, they just point blank refuse to even try. I'm slightly different. I was brought up with a family. It was like if you didn't eat your dinner, you just went hungry. So I eat anything and everything. Whereas now I'm kind of making 2-3 meals most nights to kind of cater for everyone's dietary requirements. And it's getting a bit frustrating now. So that was just something I was looking for some tips on, Sophie.
Yeah. So how old are your kids?
19 and 16.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so firstly, that is very, very normal. Like, I didn't used to like vegetables, and now I'm a nutritionist. And it's super frustrating. My mom growing up had the same, I eat everything. My brother was super fussy. My sister's a vegan. She's a pescatarian. Poor her, cooking so many meals. But with the veggies and stuff, I'd say, obviously you've probably tried this already, but trying to get your kids to engage with, this is really good for skin health, like, clearing up teenage acne. This is really good. It's going to make you strong. It's going to make your skin glow. It's going to help with your, hormones, be that testosterone, or, less painful periods. Trying to link the food to those kind of functional things. Or on social media, I imagine that they do use Instagram and stuff. If you see anyone who's inspiring, who's kind of in their early 20s, who looks great, because often kids are just motivated by that, really. They're not really thinking about like their liver health and stuff like that. Maybe if there's any kind of inspiring, like, healthy influencers, that can be a good idea, just pinging them to them, because sometimes you don't want to hear something from your loved one. My friend got so annoyed at her boyfriend the other day because I was messaging him and he said, I've got a real cold. I said, oh, you need to take some vitamin C. And he goes to her, oh, Sophie said I should take some vitamin C. And she said, I've been telling you that for like ages. So sometimes you need someone else. But I imagine you cook stuff really like in a yummy way, so it's probably not about that. But yeah, teenagers can be tough, so I feel for you.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right in terms of hormones, acne breakouts and things like that. And I'm glad that you kind of touched on the tolerance, because my oldest daughter, she's kind of recognising an intolerance to a lot of kind of dairy products. And we were looking at going for the testing, but I think you're right, it's just a process of elimination.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And with skin, not all, and let me just put this on the chat, actually. It might be interesting for her, 12 ways to look after your skin through nutrition. With skin, often dairy will be a trigger for people, but some people read that in an article and think, oh, if I'm struggling with my skin, I've got to cut out dairy. Dairy won't be a trigger for everyone with their acne. So, but for her, if she's noticed a difference, then probably is the dairy. Yeah,
I think something we've got time has just gone so quickly, Sophie. So I just want to say, I know, the biggest thank you. There's some questions in there and just loads of amazing feedback. I'm so sorry we haven't got any more time for any more questions, but you've covered so much ground, and I can see that everybody has taken something from this. And I think something I'm really taking from it is moderation as well, everything in moderation. So it is like, yeah, I think rather than me and my partner having that excessive sweet consumption now, it's like it's okay just with moderation and introducing things that will, you know, food really does link in. It's mind, body and soul, isn't it? So just the biggest thank you, Sophie. You've been incredible. Please just do have a read through of all the amazing comments, and Sophie's put like I said, her websites on there and things, and ways if you do have any more questions, you're happy for people to contact you, Sophie.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you both. And yeah, sorry, I've got my eyes here because I'm just looking at the chat, scrolling at the chat. Thank you everyone for contributing. And someone said something about if I run other health sessions. I'm actually going to start creating some pre-recorded courses. But if you work for companies you think could be interested in this, please send me a message and I'll send you over a PDF to ping to the HR team. But thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. And just before everybody goes, we've got a really short feedback form. So if everyone just could fill that out, that'd be amazing. And it is Free Wills Month with the EIC. So just that to pop that out there. Please do utilise that if that's something that you feel will be helpful. Thank you so much again, Sophie. You're amazing.
Thank you, Lucy, Marcella and Grace. And thank you everyone for bringing that energy, and have a lovely rest of your day.
You too. Bye.